Hey guys, I'm out here in the garage going to work on the Triumph wiring. So this will be part two. We're actually going to get M unit mounted up and start to run each individual wire and get us closer and closer to getting this thing done. So how I'm going to start off this, I have my little battery box in here. You can see it. I have it closed off. The battery's actually not in there, but it's a little bit hard to see, which is exactly the point. That's where my anti-gravity battery is going to be. I have holes on each side, one side for the negative, one side for the positive, that they're going to run into the headlight itself. Then I am going to run a separate ground cable from the M unit through to the actual frame of the bike so that the ground isn't having to run through the bearings. So I can actually ground to the frame kind of on the inside of the neck right here. That'll be kind of my main chassis ground for the rest of the bike. I have some thicker gauge, 10 gauge wire I'm going to use for my ground. The M unit comes with some thick wire for the positive wire. Then I have a few other things. I'm going to make a little bracket out of this piece of metal right here to mount my voltage regulator. So I know this is going to be kind of hard to see, but the voltage regulator has kind of tabs on each side. My goal is to tuck it up here right by the coil. Luckily, there are two tapped holes on the bottom of the gas tank. I have no idea what these are originally for, but I'm going to use those tapped holes to basically just run a flat bar across that I can screw to the bottom of the tank, and then this will mount to the top of that bar. So it'll be a super simple, basically 4 holes in this flat bar, bolt up under the tank, and will hold the voltage regulator right above your line of sight. You'll never be able to see it. So that's where we're going to hide that. Sorry if this video is going to be super time-lapse heavy. Basically, a lot of what I'm going to be doing is just individual wires, one at a time, just running them, getting them to the perfect length, putting terminals on them, and kind of just going one by one and wiring it up. So if you didn't just catch my last video, I did a full kind of rundown of how to wire an M unit. I'll throw a card up now for it, but that's exactly what I'm going to be doing just on the bike, and the wires are just going to be hidden. So I'm literally just going to mount the M unit in there and go one by one and start to kind of run each individual wire and make sure they're the right length and they have the right terminals, and everything is good. So been just kind of going after it one after one, like I said. So I have the M unit mounted in the headlight. It has a little kind of 90-degree bracket to this ground post off of this headlight mount here. Then I have the battery inside the box, all hidden with the cables coming out. Power cable comes through, runs into my 30 amp fuse. I have the fuse pulled now so that I don't actually have power to it. Running into the power terminal. Grounds, I have my common ground right here. These are going to be common powers up here. So it's coming along. So next step is going to be kind of just continue what I'm doing one by one. So I need to have a power to the one center terminal and the ignition switch. Then the other one is going to go into my lock side, and then that out of the lock side is going to go to this. So just one by one, I'm making the wires exactly the length they need to be, so that I don't have a whole hell of a lot of excess going on here, because obviously this is packed pretty darn tight. I don't know if I showed you guys the little bracket I ended up making. I know I talked about it, but I am going to end up painting those bolts black, but that totally sits underneath and still has good airflow around the voltage regulator. So I know those two wires need to be run to power and ground as well. So yep, going to I know that this red wire from the voltage regulator needs to go to this positive terminal. Negative needs to go to ground. I'm gonna run a common kind of chassis ground right under here, so I'll just run that. So yeah, like I said, we're just gonna kind of keep going one by one and follow basically exactly what I did in that explanation video, but all on the bike. What's going to be a little bit confusing, I got to figure out here in a little bit, is how to get the wires out of this, out of these switches, and kind of hide them and basically figure out how they can come out and keep them nice and clean and zip tie around. But it's only going to be a couple of wires, not a huge amount, because I'll probably share some grounds while I'm in there. But anyway, we'll figure that part out in a little bit. I'm just going to continue to the, kind of wire up the basics here. Alright, it's been a few days actually since the last clip, but kind of wanted to show you the little bit of progress I made tonight. I have my switches on the handlebar. Obviously took it out just because I had to drill holes in it. So the wires actually go through the bar right behind the buttons there, and then out the bottom here. I am going to wrap these in heat shrink and put them through so they don't chafe, and then there'll be a nice solid kind of black wire coming out of the headlight, or out of the handlebar I should say, just right down in here into the back of the headlight. The reason I had to do it this way is because how tight these switches are. There was no way for the wires to actually come out. So if you think about it, I have to have a ground to each one of these and another power wire to each one of these. Well, technically not a power wire, but you know what I mean. There's basically 2 wires to each one of these, so there's 8 wires total. So, tip on what I did, if you guys go with these same switches, I actually took the grounds and ran from one pin on a switch to the next pin on a switch, over to another pin and another pin, and then had one wire. So basically I had a jumper across and then one ground wire to this whole thing. So basically all 4 of those prongs are grounded by the same wire, which is totally safe and totally fine to do. Again, there's not a lot of power or anything running through these. It's really just about grounding that circuit. That way I only have to run 5 wires through my handlebar instead of 8. And when it's this tight, that really does make a difference. So we'll turn the key and show you how everything works. So you can see M unit's powered up on there. If I hit my left turn signal, then I can hit my right turn signal. And then I have this one set up for the headlights, which obviously don't have a headlight in there, but you can see low beam, high beam. Hold it down to turn it off, and then this one's the horn. So, good to go. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and, like I said, put some heat shrink over all of these wires, shrink it up, and then we can put this handlebar back on there and route it down where it looks nice and clean. Update here, I wanted to double check just that it all does still fit in the headlight. So headlight is totally closed. We'll turn it on. Try our left turn signal. I still don't have the rear turn signals wired up yet. I'm going to actually wait to do that and the tail light until after I disassemble everything and paint everything. Just because right now it wouldn't make sense because I would have to pull all the wires back off to then paint the frame. So it's literally just going to be like 3 wires I'm going to have to run to the back of the bike. So we're just going to hold off on there. But I do have some connections already ready to go for when we're ready to do that. Go with right turn signal. I'm gonna turn on the headlight. You can see my headlight's super straight. And then switch to high beam. And you got the flash to pass feature. Click and hold down. Turn it off. And then I don't have the horn wired up, but this other button would be the horn. So you can see the controls are super clean. Obviously I don't have the clutch lever on there again yet, but the wires just kind of tucked nicely underneath and then wrapped right into the headlight. So overall the wiring is looking really, really tidy and I like it so far. I'm going to wire up the coil and the points, and then I'm going to see, fingers crossed, if I can get enough out of the kickstart to get at least one spark out of a spark plug, just so I can verify that I do in fact have spark. And then we're going to kind of wrap up the wiring. Wired up the coil, have everything kind of just jerry-rigged together right now. The spark plug plugged in, kind of leaning up against the head. Now this is going to be damn near impossible for me to try to do a kickstart with my hand while trying to film a spark plug, but let's see what happens. Oh, let me turn my key on first. Okay. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw that. No idea if you saw it, because I was... Whew, that is hard to kick over. 750 cc's with just your hand. But, trust me when I say, we had spark. So... Okay. So that is it for the wiring. Trying to think. Got my brake light all wired up. Coil mounted. Yeah, so really all I have left to do in the wiring front, which isn't going to be in this video, is going to be, like I said, the two rear lights, which is just one wire each, because we're just going to ground to the frame. And then the brake light, which again is just one wire for the tail and brake light, thanks to the M unit, and then another ground wire. So we will have 6 total wires back here, but 3 of them are grounds directly to the frame, so I'm only going to have to run 3 from the front of the bike. I'm just going to come out of the headlight through the neck right here, and then just kind of ride that bottom frame rail all the way underneath and up, and I can cut over for the left signal on this little tube right here. And this again is going to be painted black, so I probably will have a couple zip ties, but black zip ties on black. I'll do my best to kind of hide them and put them in places where they won't stand out very much. But I'm not going to bother running it through the frame, just because there's mounts that already go through the frame and a couple other things that kind of run through the frame rail itself. So it isn't just a hollow path all the way up there, unfortunately. So it'll be fine. Just kind of run next to the frame on the inside and zip tie it out of the way. But again, I'm going to wait until we paint the frame to get that part done. So that is going to do it for this video. Hopefully it turned out well. Like I said, I kind of made it over a couple of days. I ran out of time one day and had to kind of move on to the next one. But all the wiring fits inside the headlight. It's all ready to go. We have spark. Part of me wants to just rush and put it all together and try and start it, but not going to do that. I'm going to build it the right way, and now that I know I have spark, can blow it all apart. I really won't have to do anything to pull apart the wiring. It's really just going to be pulling the tank back off, the seat off, the rear fender, the engine out, and then paint everything. I have a lot, again, finish welding. I did remake this about 1/4 of an inch longer to suck it up to the tire a little bit better, but I got to finish weld that. I got to finish weld the chain tensioner. One thing I do need to figure out that'll be on the next video is my brake lever or pedal or whatever you want to call it. How that's going to work with these new engine plates and stuff. I haven't really figured that out. So that's going to be the next video. It's going to be starting to tear this thing apart and then figuring out that rear brake just in case we have to fabricate anything. Then paint and we'll keep going. So I am going to try and get a lot of that done this weekend. And the weekend after this is the Twist Off, which is a drag racing kind of event that I bought a ticket to ride this bike to, and that's literally less than 2 weeks away. So I took 2 days off of work next week, just in case. Thursday and Friday I took off in case I need to finish it. My ideal situation would be have it disassembled and finish welded and painted by the end of this weekend. And then I can reassemble it over the next kind of couple of days, and then have Thursday to ride the bike and actually start to see if there's any kind of thing we have to figure out. And we'll see if the chain tensioner is going to work. You know what I mean? We haven't really gotten to test a lot of this stuff. So Thursday and Friday, I'm hoping of next week will be riding, testing, tuning, getting the bike inspected and street legal, hopefully. If not a big deal, because I can just trailer it to the event and race it without it having license plates on it. But ideally, I would like to have it running and driving and everything by next Thursday. So going to start putting in some late nights, and I'm sorry if I kind of have to skip over some of it on video. I want to make sure I can get it all done in time for that event. So yep, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you like it. Follow along, and we'll have some more videos in the next couple of days.